Hello and welcome back. That was a slight false start there because I left up the wrong screen, but hello and welcome back to the Gaming Podcast Live. I'm your host, Miabai, as we're about to dive into all manner of the most curiously captivating queer conversations on the web. Yes, indeed. Now, we're here with three lovely individuals, as you can see. So please welcome on in Awkwardish Panda, Biggest Bennis, and Data Dave. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hey there.
Welcome. How's everybody doing today?
I exist.
You exist.
Pretty well. Sunday, chill day.
I had a good sleep. It was like the first time in a long time I woke up and felt fresh. So, and it's still,
That's awesome.
still feeling fresh. It's weird. Yeah.
Good. I feel like that's about par for the course at the moment. Like we're running the gamut of like experiences at the moment. But yeah, still here. It's 2024. We're kicking things off with some cool things today. We're gonna have a very, very nice conversation. This podcast is obviously called Pansexual versus Playersexual, or Playersexual versus Pansexual. What does that mean? You're going to find out. So, but before we jump into any of that, I got to do a little bit of housekeeping. Same old. The Gaming Awards is coming on the April 7th. You can watch on Twitch, YouTube, and keep an eye on the socials for all the updates on that. And as always, you can keep up with all the news and features from Gaming Magazine by visiting gamingmag.com. Please go ahead and do that. So, everybody, a massive welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time today. Now, as per usual, before we jump into anything, I want to let people get to know you better. So we're just going to go down the line, and I want you to introduce yourselves and tell everybody what you do, what you're about, and how you make your mark online. We'll start with you, Panda.
Right. Hi, I'm Awkwardish Panda. I'm really awkward and roughly panda-sized and very, very queer. I am a professional mini painter here on Twitch. I also occasionally game. This week I was named an Ubisoft partner, so I am doing lots of Skull and Bones because I love the game a lot. Because why not pandas and piracy? I'm a competition painter mostly. I do a lot of commission work. That's what I do. I'll paint tiny things.
Heck yeah.
With a lot of detail.
Oh, I've seen some of your miniatures. They're very, very impressive. Oh, and your crafting in general has always been.
Yeah, I've completely moved away from crafting. It is strictly mini painting now. After
is it just mini painting now?
It is literally just a full-time mini painter. I have fallen in love with it and found so much joy in it because I don't feel like I have to do it for numbers. I just enjoy it so much, and that's what I do full-time now.
I love that for you. I love that. All right, of course we have Data Dave.
Hey there. To introduce myself, I do mostly story-based games and multiplayer games in my community. So either we're enjoying games together competitively, chat's beating me in games, or we're going through narratives. So recently we just beat Yakuza Like a Dragon. Oh, their writing is phenomenal. Too many turns for me, but I love the game. So we're diving into the next one. And outside of that, recently Grand Blue, Pokemon Unite, just kind of anything you can pick up and play.
Hell yes. I've not played Like a Dragon yet. I want to jump into it. They sent me a copy of the game. But it's like the most recent game out of like all the other games. So my mods who are really into it, they're like, okay, well, here's you have a choice. You can watch this 6-hour video breaking down the whole series, or you can watch this 1-hour video, which will bring you up to speed on everything. I'm like, I'll go for the 1-hour video, please.
I can understand completely.
And last but definitely not least, we have Biggest Bennis. Hello.
Hello. I'm Biggest Bennis. I'm a variety streamer as well. I pretty much I play literally anything from Baldur's Gate 3 to WWE with everything in between. Pretty much anything you can imagine. I also do like Let's Plays for YouTube. I do a podcast with my partner Ed, who's in the other room watching and probably in the chat as well. And yeah, I also in my day-to-day job, I work for Great Ormond Street Hospital charity, children's charity, where I'm kind of in charge of the gaming and streaming at the moment. And
so you've got the current campaign, Oh My Gosh, which is that going on right now, or is that coming?
No,
up?
that's 4th to the 10th of March. We've got a streaming week called Oh My Gosh, and honestly, going around and being, because Gosh is Great Ormond Street Hospital, being able to get that name was quite something. I was like, you sure no other campaign has used Oh My Gosh? Is it just? I thought everybody would have wanted to go for that name, but managed to get it for the streaming week.
I love it. I love it. All right, then. So, what's everybody been playing recently? Obviously, you all mentioned some of the stuff that you've been doing, but is there anything anybody's like been really putting their time into at the moment?
Skull and Bones released early
Skull and Bones.
Tuesday. Open beta was last weekend. The game fully released on Friday, and I have 48 hours into it already.
48. Okay.
All of my
That's quite a lot.
painting time. It's a lot of painting, and when things need to dry, jump into the game and go shoot some ships, and then go back to painting.
Oh, okay. I like that. I like
You gotta
that.
let stuff coats paint dry, because if you don't, it's a mess.
Well,
For me,
you go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll say, well, outside of like what I mentioned with Unite, I just beat Poppy's playtime. I screamed the entire way.
Nice.
So the third one,
Well-
oh man, I was so scared.
Wait. How many episodes have been released of that?
There's
so
now
far?
3 chapters, and like the
They
third
released
one,
the third?
it's a long time. Yeah, I was yelling the whole. I just try to anticipate the jump scare, and that makes it scarier because it's like, hey, you're just doing the puzzle for the next 20 minutes. I'm sitting here like, where's the
Yeah.
monster?
Yeah. So I've only played the first two, but like that sequence, I think in the first one where you're going through the vents being chased by oh god, whatever their name is. That's scary as heck. Scary as heck.
You should go for round 3 if you so choose, of course.
Oh, defo. Fantastic experience. I've been putting all of my time, unsurprisingly, into Final Fantasy 16 at the moment. I am like right at the end of the game. I literally thought that I was about to finish the game. So I named my last stream the finale. I was like dead set. This is the finale. We're doing it. I started up the game. I had like 5 side quests to do before the ending. Did those side quests. Another 5 populated. Did those. Hunts started populating. They like put all of the side quests in the game like right at the end for some reason, which I absolutely adore.
They're the good ones. They're the really good ones at the end as well.
The finale TM.
The finale TM. Yeah,
part 5.
I literally made a thumbnail. I had to go back afterwards. I put part 1 next to it. So it's the finale part 1. We did all the side quests. We got all that out of the way. And next time we'll be doing just the DLC, which is about 3 hours long, I've been told. And then the ending's going to be about another 3 hours. So that's like the perfect length for the last episode. But yeah, all my time's been going into that. I see you've played it as well, Ben, but I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, I'm with it when it comes to 16. Yeah, I'm gonna wait for the second, because I haven't played the first DLC. I'm gonna wait for the second one to come through to come out, and then I'm gonna do like the hard mode playthrough to get the platinum. Yeah, no, I love 16. I'm currently actually in terms of Final Fantasy, I'm quite close to the end of Endwalker on Final Fantasy 14.
Oh, really? You still
I'm
haven't finished that?
No, I'm about
Okay.
10. I think I'm 10 quests from the end.
Oh my
I
god!
will-
Which
Totally
location are you
spoiler-
at right
Well,
now?
totally spoiler free. I have just fought a dungeon, and then immediately afterwards a trial of a certain lady that I was familiar with.
Oh,
Okay, it clicked
you
for me.
have
Yeah.
I
you
feel
have
like
so many tears coming.
Yes.
It's not even funny. Yeah.
Everyone said, like, we were, because I went to FanFest in London, and every time like a certain song came on, people were like, "Oh, I'm just gonna cry." And I was like, I don't understand any of this, and I didn't know why they were crying, and I'm sure I'll find out very soon. But can't wait for that. But yeah, I'm currently on 14. I'm actually just started Yakuza Like a Dragon, so the one before Infinite Wealth. I've just started that on my Steam Deck, and it runs really, really well. And that game is wild. Like the first mission, you have to beat like some guy up who's selling animal filth to school kids or something like that.
Yeah.
What?
That was Yakuza. I mean, I played quite a bit of like Yakuza Kiwami and Zero and a few of the other ones as well. But yeah, the game, it just gets even wilder and wilder.
Heck yeah. Sorry, I was distracted for a moment then by chat asking where Dave got their wonderful Pokemon shirt.
I got it from Pokemon Company officially. So it was that Halloween.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's cool was like it's the candies with the little Gengars.
I love that.
It's
I do
so
love.
cute.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah. Like the pop of like green on there as well. 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
Love it. Speaking of colors, we're all pretty much matched up today as well with the purple too. I love that for us. We're good. Right then. So let's jump in, shall we? We're going to jump into our big question today. It's a little bit different this time. So GLAAD put out their report on the state of LGBTQ inclusion in video games for 2024. So one of the findings was that 72% of LGBTQ gamers say that seeing characters with their gender identity and or sexual orientation represented well makes them feel better about themselves. And it got us thinking over at Gayming about queer representation in video games, and other than indies, which games do it best? And the obvious answer would be games with character creators. So we wanted to talk about character creators today, and that's where this whole idea of playersexual versus pansexual goes in, because obviously you have yourself, your character that you create is going to be representative of yourself, but you also have the characters in the game who are all generally pansexual. As well as your character is mostly deemed to be pansexual. It's based on the choices you make, obviously. But we wanted to dive into this a little bit more and just talk about character creation in general. So, what is your personal view of games with character creation in them? Are they games that you tend to seek out? Why do you enjoy them, if so? And of course, on average, how long do you spend creating your characters? Because it seems like that's the biggest thing for most of us, like hours in there, just hours. So yeah, anybody's free to jump in on that. What games, what character creation games do you play, and why do you like them?
I'll hop in.
Yeah, hop in.
Well,
hop in.
tell you,
I'll direct this next time at somebody.
I'll hop in for it and say Baldur's Gate 3. I feel like that's one of the biggest ones, but that's the one I put the most time in. Like, you giving me so many options, and what's funny is, like, I spent a lot of time making my first guy. So I'm like, I always play elf when we're doing D&D. Then I'm like, let me start over. I want to be a dragon now. So like, it's just that time is fun in making on what you want to be. If that answers that question. But I spent a lot of time.
I played a fair bit of Baldur's Gate. One thing I really appreciated about Baldur's Gate 3 is that I think the faces are quite set. So you can't really go into the intricacies of like changing their cheeks or their eyebrows or whatnot. Because I find like whenever it's a game like that where I can have like total control over every single part of their face, they end up looking completely hideous. Because I'm like, oh no, actually I quite like big eyebrows. Oh, and I like this, and it ends up not working together. So I quite like the preset faces on there. But yeah, the one I've mainly used most of the time, like spent a lot of time using, was the WWE 2K games, because I do every now and again Friday Night Wrestling where community members get made in the game by one of my amazing, Panda is in it as well. One of my incredible community members, Mr. Millhill, spends hours and hours on each character, making them. And the amount of detail that's available in those character creators, he manages to make people look genuinely like they are in real life, like down to their face shapes and their like all their features. It's just like that is incredibly detailed. But I'm actually not somebody that spends that long making them. Back in when Animal Crossing first came out, I remember just gave myself this kind of minty green hair and spikes, and I've pretty much gone with that. And I'm just like, okay, whatever spiky hair is, give it a green and an undercut, and then kind of go in. I don't necessarily spend too much time because I'm quite impatient and I just want to play the game.
I'm going to echo what Ed just said in chat. Character creation is a game in itself when it's done well.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, character creation in any game is literally either the first or final boss based on how good it is. Because if it's trash, it might just be the final boss because I'm done. If it's great, I may spend a day and a half just deciding exactly what I want to do. And I've had games do both. So because representation gets a little weird in some of them, on a lot of different levels. So
you find some games as well, it's like really impossible to make a non-hideous character. And like no offense to hideous people if there are any hideous people watching. I'm sure there aren't, only beautiful people. But I think it was Red Dead Redemption Online, maybe, or it might have been GTA Online. But no, I think it was Red Dead Redemption 2 Online. I remember playing it and it was impossible not to make somebody that was just hideous. And like when you want to make a character in a game, you want to make it look as cool and as like, you want to make it as a person that either represents you or represents what maybe you want to be. And I don't want to look like somebody that had kind of, fallen off the ugly tree and hit every branch on the way down.
Oh, yeah. I feel you on that. Like for me, when I'm creating characters in games, it goes in two wildly different directions. First of all, I'll try and make, actually 3 different directions. Either I'll try and make someone who looks like me, then soon decide that I don't want myself to be in that game, and then just make my the same character archetype that I always make. And if they can have purple skin, it's even better. But yeah, either purple hair or purple skin, something purple, just like a purple being in general. Very, very cute and femme. That's usually what I go for. Or the complete other direction and make the most hideous, monstrous being that whose proportions don't make sense within the bounds of the character creator. And yeah, so it's either those that I'm going for. But
You play Street Fighter then?
I haven't played Street
Oh,
Fighter.
okay.
I've
funnily
seen
enough.
it.
What
I've
is
seen the creation. It's wild.
what
Like
is it
all
like?
types of
Like,
proportions, but then they fight like barely in close range. You know, it's been funny. It's been funny.
mm,
It reminds me of
okay.
Ark a bit.
And I think it was Saints Row, the game that wasn't the best, but I had the best character creation. Or just the
Yeah,
weirdest.
yeah. I was going to mention that because that had like options for like genitalia on no matter what body type. It had options to like change up the voice depending on like, and didn't have to match your body type as well. They had some really, really good options in there for their character creation. Shout out to Saints Row. Yeah,
Saints
definitely.
Row went really, really hard into the we will let you be whoever you want to be in this game.
Mm-hmm. And I am like, it's a shame that the game wasn't as cool as I'd hoped it was, but I will say less about that because they sponsored Gaming Live 2 years ago. So yeah, let's move on. So we've heard many stories about how character creators are used to experiment with personal identities. For instance, I myself, as a trans person, for me, before I came out or even came to terms with my queerness in general, a lot of the time I would just create like the same redheaded femme character in a game as like the representation of my avatar. I could have been a guy at any time, but it definitely let me like get out some of those feelings that I was having internally, clearly, in a healthier environment, considering that I wasn't able to do that in the real world. Have you had like experiences like this where you just play around with characters to have either an experience that you can't express or just a different experience?
I think for me, a lot of it was, especially in RPGs, was getting to play queer characters. That was kind of like my big one, was like, I can be openly queer in this game. What? And it gave me the opportunity to really kind of explore things that I couldn't articulate yet, especially in like older RPGs. And then like now that I'm older and I kind of know exactly who I am, I can play myself in a game 99% of the time. I can play who I am as a person. I can't play characters that look like me because most of these games are fat phobic as hell. But I can play characters that act like me and have the same kind of beliefs as me and like the same kind of attractions as me and that kind of thing. And I love that and the ability to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be piggybacking off what Panda said in the sense of like, having that experience, at least for me, when I was getting more comfortable with myself, like, okay, I'm having a gay relationship in this, being able to live that through game and everyone's like, oh, okay, cool. And I'm like, oh, this is how it should be everywhere. But, the world's getting better about it. But hopping back on, it just was nice to see and experience to say, wow, like I didn't expect this love story would be in game. Like one of my favorite ones just in general is like Mass Effect. I'm like, I didn't know I could date this person. We're going to explore this. So those experiences are always great for me in games.
Was it Mass Effect that you could only be queer in the third one?
There was an option of the person in the first, and you just kind of learn as you go. I forgot which game you could finally date them, but they did add that.
Yeah, because one thing is, as a kid, I kind of did relate, or I couldn't really relate to having characters that were queer in there just because there weren't that many around. Like so few, like the Mass Effect was a bit later on. For me, the first one, or the one that I remember, was The Sims. Just being able to have gay relationships in there, I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. It felt a bit naughty as well because I was playing it like when my parents didn't know about it, and neither did my girlfriend. That kind of like game was great for me. But like I didn't really play many games that had character creators as a kid. But even if I did, I don't know if those really existed back in the day. I think we are a bit more, I won't say spoiled for choice, but I think we've got a lot more options, or many more options these days.
Yeah, I mean, there seems to be like I wouldn't say a plethora of options these days, but there seems to be like a a lot of options for that self-expression, especially in the indie scene as well. As we mentioned, indies seem to like do it the best out of anyone, especially when it comes to like the character creators themselves. They always seem to be as inclusive as they possibly can be. So which games do you think implement like your choices, your character choices well, whether it's like gender or sexuality? Do you find that like any of your choices in character creators have an impact on the actual games that you're playing?
Dragon Age Inquisition. I'm just going to bring that one up because that is one, and I know I've had this argument with people before, but I'm going to say it, leave the characters as they are. It is the most realistic experience in terms of who you romance, and it affects the game, and it affects what happens in the game. They have one canonically bi character, one canonically pan character, a couple of canonically straight characters, a couple of canonically gay characters, because no two people are alike. And I feel like it's the most realistic experience. I mean, you maybe can't romance the person you want because they have a different preference, but that's real life.
Definitely.
I think they do a very, very good job of representation in that game.
There's kind of like a line to be towed there, I guess, and that kind of brings us down to like the crux of the issue of the whole conversation is like these characters in games. Like I think in Baldur's Gate 3 are most of the characters, if not all the characters, like pansexual. They'll just be with anyone. Is that something that is of a benefit? Because it does not mean that we're not telling stories that need to be told in that sense.
I think you can actually say that it's fine. I'm going to maybe play devil's advocate a bit and go against what people might think. But I think that especially in Baldur's Gate 3, there are certain games like this where obviously you're creating your own character and you've decided the identity of this character and who they they are attracted to. But then in Baldur's Gate 3, you're choosing to actively try and romance a certain person. So you're technically kind of controlling them as well. And especially in Baldur's Gate 3, you control all the different characters. So I think that's a good example. But because you're creating your own playthrough, you're not only just creating your character, but you're creating maybe the preferences of the other characters as well. So if, for example, you're playing Mass Effect and you decide to romance, I haven't finished it. I think, is Garrus romanceable at one point?
He is, yeah.
Okay.
I think
Space Husband is absolutely romanceable.
You can go on a date with him in the Citadel, if I remember correctly, in one of the DLCs.
Yeah, one of the DLCs. You go on a couple of dates with him, I think.
Yeah,
his is real interesting too. His is a real interesting story.
But like, so in your playthrough, you can decide whether Garrus is heterosexual, pansexual, gay. You can decide, and you're kind of controlling them as well. It's not just your own character that you're controlling, and I think that's why. To me, it doesn't matter too much. You don't know necessarily that every single person is pansexual in the game because you're only maybe going for one or two. Maybe in your head, the canon for Shadowheart, for example, is that, I'm playing a male character, but Shadowheart in my playthrough is lesbian. So therefore, I'm not going to try and romance her. She's not going to try and romance me. It's, that's part of what I'm playing.
Kind of feels like we're getting down to like
I think that's.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, it kind of feels like we're getting into a kind of like death of the author kind of situation here, where it's more about the players, what the player projects onto the characters more so than what the writer intends for them to be. Essentially, is that kind of like the avenue you'd say? It's more important for players to have that experience that they want the characters to be rather than what's intended. That's saying to Ben. Sorry.
Sorry.
That's Ben.
No, I agree with that, and it's weird because sometimes, and I think there's definitely a time when you are playing either somebody that has a very set role or a set sexuality, and for me the example is The Witcher 3. Like I played The Witcher 3, loved it, played it in like a week somehow. I don't know how, but in there I'm like, well, no, I don't. I'm only being forced to romance these 3 women in the game, or 2 or 3, I think it was. And I don't want to, so I chose not to. And I think I got like the worst ending, or one of the poor endings.
Really?
I chose not to. Yeah. Well, no, I think that there's different ways of how to get there. I think there are multiple endings, but one of them, if you don't end up with anybody, which I didn't, it's a little bit cold.
You get the sad, lonely, cis hetero incel ending. Yeah.
Exactly. But so next time I played, I went for Yennefer, obviously. But like that is kind of a role that you are a straight Witcher. Geralt is. He likes these women, and Yes, and that's what the game wanted, and that's what they're saying. You know, this guy is straight, so you can only date these women, or or you get nobody. And yeah, no, I mean, I find totally fine with that. But then, yeah, giving us the option like they do in Baldur's Gate 3, which I think is a great way. It's like a great game for them to do that, just because there's so much customization. And like, yeah, you can play. I'm pretty sure you can play the whole game. I'm only at chapter 2 or act 2, but you can play. Can't you just play the game pretty much controlling one of the origin characters? So you can play. So yeah, you'd have full control over them as well. So it's, yeah, I do. I feel like, you know, both are very, very valid.
Yeah.
I guess I'm hopping on the point of both of you. Honestly, I like both. Like, you know, I didn't know much about Dragon's Age, but now I want to check it out because you highly recommend it. But I was going to mention in Baldur's Gate 3, I do like the idea if I'm creating myself in this verse, however I want to be, I would prefer to be able to date anybody I see, because it's like I'm creating my own character and they might like them or whatever they may be. So, you know, I like that, but I do feel like if I'm playing, like, okay, you're playing as, I don't know much about Dragon Age. We'll use The Witcher. You just, if I'm playing this Witcher character, this is their narrative based on their backgrounds, and I'm discovering this character, I don't mind if I don't have those choices, but it would be nice. So, you know, I would love in Witcher 3, I haven't played it, that there's a gay option that I would prefer it. But if not, I'm like, hey, this is your character. I'm discovering them. But if it's I'm creating my character, I want to date who I want to date. So best of both worlds. It depends on where do you want to be or what they intend. And of course, if I create somebody, hey, I want it my way.
Yeah, it's difficult because like I've been going back and forth in my head over this, like thinking about like just the subjects by myself, and it's like in one aspect, like I want the opportunity just to date anybody I want, because you know there's some pretty cool characters out there. But I kind of feel like it's good, and it definitely serves like more of a it has much more narrative impact if you get to a person that you've got like you've been looking at and you're like, okay, I want to romance this person, and you get to a point where they're just like, sorry, I'm not interested in you. Like you don't fit the archetype of what I want. Sorry,
right. And well, I was gonna say, like, I'm with Ben on the like being able to create your own story in games like Dragon Age where you are controlling everybody. It's great, and I'm fully for it. I love Baldur's Gate. I think the romance options in it are great. The ending has wrecked me multiple times, and I haven't even gotten there yet. But you know, with Dragon Age specifically, and this is where I'm going to go back to Inquisition and how they do it, you do get that. You can flirt with every character in the game up to a certain point, but they all have their preferences. And there are certain characters in the game that you're romancing them saves their life later kind of type stuff, like in later DLC and like long-term stuff. But they tell like an actual story, and you have the option to romance a couple of people up until you don't. There is a line where it is, you've got to pick. So there's no poly relationships, which is a little weird because Baldur's Gate does that much better. But you know, there is the representation there that feels more real to the queer experience and the stories of the people in the game, because those characters all have their own stories to tell that you learn through the game. Baldur's Gate, everybody's got their own stories to tell that you learn through the game, but you could play as all those characters too and learn so much. It's the way that game is going to be replayable for people for years and years and years and years is wild. But I think there needs to be a balance there. I think that there's it's good to have some games that don't and some games that do. I'm with both Ben and Dave. The Witcher is like, you gotta be straight. You have to play a cishet straight dude. That's cishet dude. That's who you are. I wish they gave you options, because I think everybody deserves to have those options. But that's just not the story that franchise tells, unfortunately. So I think that there's a balance, and there needs to be representation just in general. But
yeah,
you know, balance between the two, some do, some don't, is fine. It's when there's none that it's like, okay.
Yeah, I definitely, it really comes down to what the game creator wants to do narratively as well, especially with the player character too. Because I noticed this in Mass Effect, like you have a character creator in that game, but you are playing as Commander Shepard. Like as much as you can make it look like yourself, it's not yourself you're playing, it's Commander Shepard. So it doesn't matter if they're a man or a woman or what preferences they had. It's always their story being told, albeit with like different traits, and you can change your backstory slightly, I guess, but the core of the character is always going to be the same way, which is a bit odd to me that they even have a character creator in the first place. It's nice to have the option, but it doesn't really serve the game narratively, I found.
Has anyone ever made a good-looking shepherd that wasn't default?
You know what? Funnily enough, you raise a good point. Yeah, like even FemShep, like default FemShep is usually better looking, and I don't like in terms of modern societal values, I guess, than like anything that you can create with other characters.
Maybe that's the one thing that Andromeda and what was it called? Andromeda did better.
The last one, yeah,
they had a good character creator. People didn't obviously like the rest of it as much. I really liked it, but yeah, the character creator was good.
Yeah, I think I picked up a copy of Andromeda for like the PS4 for like £5. It's been sat on my shelf for like the last 2 years. I've not cracked it open yet, but I will have to check out the character creator in that.
That was the first Mass Effect I played, so I think that's why I liked it.
Yeah, probably. That's probably it, is because there's a lot of people that went into Andromeda expecting another Shepherd story, and when they didn't get it, got mad.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what they've... Oh, yeah. I'm excited to see what they've got coming in the next one, too. But that's conversation for another day. If that ever eventually comes out.
Please, I'm also staring at the next Dragon Age game. Like, can I go punch the egg yet? Please, I'm begging.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like they've announced both of those and like just no news on the horizon. Anyway, that's another conversation. So it's interesting, like in terms of like the queer stories that we can tell and how the character creators like have seemingly very little impact other than the fact that you can just be a pansexual character who can date anyone. Like, it does feel like in a lot of these games, to me at least, that like if I was a character who was trans, for instance, like that aspect of like identity is extremely important to me and would probably be really extremely important for that character. But as far as I can tell, that would have like zero impact on like the game itself. And so do we want games that actually serve different kinds of people? Do we want like devs to think about this? And like if you're a trans character, what kind of impact would that have on the world that you're playing in? Do you get different content based on that? Is that something that you would want to see? Depending on your choices?
That's really interesting to say, because like if I, for example, if I was playing a character that was gay and in a gay relationship, it depends what kind of stuff it would be. Like I wouldn't particularly want to play a game where they're like, hey, you're gay, so therefore you're going to face some homophobia. I'm like, okay, no, I don't need that in a game.
Yeah.
Just walk out. Just go out
and
walk into the street, hold hands with your partner. But yeah, so it's like, it depends how that would look in a game.
And it would have to be done well too, you know.
Well.
It's like, oh, I made the gay character. Oh, you're the gay character. Do you want this? It's like, you know, it's like as long as it's
I feel like as
like
exactly as you're saying, as long as it's like positive and it's not like excluding you, I guess, from anything. Like it's never seen as like a negative sense. But I feel like if I was a trans character and there were like certain characters that were, you know, into trans people, or maybe there was like different aspects of the story that I could like explore based on that, like a quest line, for instance, that'd be something that would be really appealing to me. Obviously, that's comes down to though a lot of work though to take like all those aspects into account, because you have like something like what, a queer run, a hetero run, a trans run. But yeah, it's like that's interesting to me though, because like I want to see these different like character experiences reflected in my game. It's unrealistic, of course, but it's definitely something I want to see. But I don't know if like if it was done positively, is that something that you would want to see?
Yeah, I would enjoy it, you know.
Oh, sorry, Dave. You.
Oh, well, I'll say I would enjoy it. Like, I'll just give a light example. I've been playing, what is this? The new Spider-Man, and you know they had a gay story. Like they were just saying their partner or they're interested in this person. It's high school, and you know I didn't know they were gay. I was like, oh, that's great. So seeing that story is great. I would think if I would want something in a perfect gaming world, I'm a gay character. It's like, hey, make sure I don't miss this icon where you get to see this good gay. Like, you know, it's like you might like this. Here's a suggested quest, and maybe if you're trans, maybe it's like, hey, let's make sure that you see the trans quest line. You know, it just be those small nuances, but experience, I'm not too sure. Like, I'm like, I would like it if it's in a good light, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that it would need to be done really, really well across the board because it's far too easy to fall into the trope of homophobia and transphobia and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff is a thing. If I can mention one indie game that did the queer storyline perfectly, Unpacking.
Unpacking.
I'll write that down.
Oh
Because
yeah.
if you've played it, you know it is queer representation, it is disability representation, it is a mixed race relationship representation, and it's all done so well that you don't even realize you're playing a story with all of these things till you start to really get into the game, because it's just subtle little things that normalize being queer, being disabled, having a partner that's a different race than you. It's amazing, like just how well done it is. And on top of being a very, very good game where
Yeah.
you don't even really see the characters at all, except in like little photographs on a shelf until the very end of the game.
I played the game in one sitting before going out clubbing, and I was just walking around. Like that's all I had in my head as I was like, I don't know if I can quite enjoy the night out as much as well, because it was just such a beautiful story.
I got to that second apartment and started doing the unpacking, like the second round of the second apartment, and started unpacking the new roommate stuff and started sobbing. I was at my desk crying for like 3 hours. My partner was like, "The fuck is wrong with you?"
It's a game about putting stuff on shelves and like unpacking things. Why are you crying? Like, yeah. But I really need to play that. I've actually got it on my Steam Deck. I should like boot that up tonight and give that a go. Because like,
Game Pass
I'm
as well,
just thinking now, I might get it.
Yeah, I think it's,
it's really inexpensive. It's indie. It's amazing. They have done so much. I'm almost gonna sit down and just play through it again. I think I played through the whole thing in like 3 hours or 4 hours.
Yeah,
and it was worth every penny I paid for it.
I'm sorry, chat has just said unpacking that trauma as well as boxes. That sounds like an amazing time.
Great name.
Okay.
I was going to say before, like when you're talking about the different runs and stuff, I think you've hit on something, Mia. I think like you can do runs like good runs, evil runs, like the dark. You've got like dark, gay straight runs. Make all these the
queer run, the hetero run, the trans run, all of those things.
Completely different kind of story.
Yeah.
Get the like speedrunners forced to do full game.
Yeah, and lock achievements behind it as well. So then you're forcing like cis hetero people to play through an experience that's different from their own. To actually step out of their comfort zone.
Take that, Witcher 3.
Every time they complain, like, this is what we had to experience whenever we play games in the past.
I mean, if they scream enough about pronouns in a character creator, they're going to scream about that. But I would love that to be a thing. And I feel like the first hurdle is devs actually have to care about like the queer representation within their video games, or like diverse representation within their video games, and how those characters are going to interact with the world. I was reading a Mass Effect 3 BioWare like dev blog from like years ago at this point, actually earlier today, because I was just reading up on some stuff, and they were talking about the I can't remember the character's name. I think it's Trainer, one of the only characters in Mass Effect 3 who's a lesbian. And the writer was talking about how he wrote it. He was writing the missions, and originally it was kind of going into like tropey kind of like areas, which were like not necessarily helpful for the community. But fortunately, there were like queer people working within BioWare that he could like send like just run it past, and they were just like, no, that's bad, that's and he was like fully admitted he wanted to tell a more realistic, truthful story. And that's the kind of thing I think about when we're talking about these experiences in games. Like, if everybody is a pan character and is open to everybody, are we losing those specific stories that really should be told? Like, if there's or is that content that should be relegated to like a side quest to just a random NPC? I think in Baldur's Gate 3, Abigail Thorne, who does Philosophy Tube, also has a role as a I think a tiefling, but their character is actually trans in game, and there's a whole side quest about that. I've not gotten to it myself yet, but so that's really cool to see. Do we want that with our romanceable characters as well? Like, is that as important? Like, I feel like we're how do we have those experiences while maintaining player choice as well. It's difficult, you know.
It really is. I think honestly, it's just there's got to be a balance, you know, because
Mhm.
like in the perfect world for me, I'm like, hey, just Baldur's Gate 3 everything. But if we're gonna lose the story, it's like, hey, there can also be additional options. My perfect world, if they're playing character, they're in the party, I prefer to choose. But if they're outside of it, having those NPC options, then okay, I don't have control of this. Oh, they're not interested. So I
Yeah.
keep referencing it, but now I'm interested in Dragon's Age. But it's like, hey, you can still flirt with them, but then there's this point like, hey, we're best friends, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
I mean,
so I would
you
want
can
both.
have you can have your cake and eat it too in that sense. If you're having like romanceable characters who might just be a random NPC or just like a different story side quest in general, maybe that's it. Maybe like your background could be a trait. You know how you choose traits in RPG games? Maybe one of those is like, oh, you have a trans character, and it specifically asks you, okay, is your character actually trans? And if you want that, you can opt in, and then you're like, okay, this is gonna be a side quest option that's opened up to you. So now you could get that extra content, as we were talking about, that
would
nobody
love
else
that.
gets now.
I
That'd
just
be so
had just
cool.
the most random thought, just because, you know, how they're like level difficulties and stuff for accessibility. What if you had the option to just turn pansexuality on and off? Either everyone is romanceable or everyone has their normal preferences. Then
Definitely.
everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Then you can either experience the game in like a Dragon Age way, where there are people that have preferences, and like you can either flirt with them or not, and you can romance them or not based on the character you create. Or you can just turn it on and you romance everybody. Because like Dragon Age, there's all sorts of I'm sorry, I know what I just said. It just clicked.
Sorry.
I am
No.
sorry.
No. The image in my head is going into an options menu and just having horny mode with a checkbox next to it. That is the image that popped
But that's
into my
it.
head.
And when you hit it, it makes the bonk noise.
But wouldn't you get to choose anyway? So I mean, could you not have that as an option just in your head and be like, okay, well, that person is straight, therefore I'm not going to go and talk to them, and I'm not going to
Right, you can have that. You could have that way, or if it is a game where like having the preferences affects the game's story arc as a whole, being able to just turn it off, and then everybody has like whatever their neutral dialogue is, depending on gender preference. Like, because everybody has a neutral dialogue. If they are not this, at least in Dragon Age, everybody has their own neutral dialogue that like you can kind of flirt with them, but like at some point it just stops and you're just friends, and they have that neutral. What if you could just turn that on and off in the settings, because all of the information is there? I'm sure it would be a coding nightmare, but
yeah,
this
is the kind of thing that we should be
every-
using AI for instead. You know, all the bad ways that we're using AI. No, we should be using it to make sure that there's an implementation of a horny mode instead. Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Why not?
Outside.
See, also, this is where you could pull in TTRPGs, because TTRPGs is so much different, but not, because I mean, Dragon Age is, or not Dragon Age, but Baldur's Gate's literally based on D&D.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know,
that is like the ultimate character creator and character experience, though, right?
Yeah, like I'm in a game that is not D&D. It's the universe is Blue Rose, where pansexuality is the default. There are people who are straight, there are people who are bi, there are people who are gay, but pansexuality is the default. And trans people are lauded as wonderful beings, that they exist in the world, and it is a thing that they can choose. It has it built literally into the game.
You got me thinking as well. Like maybe there should be like some, and again going back to the AI thing as well. I know like AI is a massive hot button topic at the moment, but maybe like some kind of implementation, like on top of the narratives that we already get, is a good way of using it. You think about D&D. What do you have there? You have a dungeon master. You have a game master. You have somebody that's making player choices. You essentially have a director. And maybe you could have that in the game that's like recognizing the player choices that you're making, and then you're taking you down different routes based on the choices that you're making. Not necessarily making up stories on the spot, but literally just enhancing the experience for you to make it more realistic and make that representation better in game.
That Inquisition also has a canonically trans character, and their best friend is one of the romanceable characters, and if you try to question their transness, you will get bobbed.
I like that.
Whoa.
Like,
I only played a little bit of an Inquisition back in the day.
Stands up and immediately is like, no, we don't talk about that here. You either accept it or you get out.
Oh, that's epic. I feel like BioWare has done like queer representation extremely well in their games.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems like they care. Whether or not the same people are even still working there at this point is a question that's up in the air. But like classic BioWare definitely seemed like they cared. Yeah. But yeah, would you want the trade option though? Would you want that in your game where it, like, again, gives you that extra content, or this dungeon master idea, or does that sound like too much work for the devs?
I'm over here like both. Like, make the game cute for me. I love to see the representation in games. But I would like if they were somehow able to adapt. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I think you're doing this. Here's what's going on with the AI or the dungeon master.
I think I'd let developers choose what they want. I feel like whenever there's a game out, people are saying, "Oh, we need toggles." Do you see lately? Apparently, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because they dare to have some yellow paint to make it clear where you need to go. Apparently, people have been calling for a toggle on that as well, and I'm like,
I can't believe people complain about it. I need it. I will get lost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
let people let the devs create what they want.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I definitely agree with
nice.
that. But I definitely agree. Like, devs should be able to create what they want, and like keeping their vision intact is also something that's really important to me. But I guess at the end of the day, it's like I feel like they should want to tell queer stories too. And maybe there's something there that there's not enough representation in video games, which is why we're all pining for it so much and why it's so important to me. Is that like you never get a AAA title with like a queer character at the forefront, or at least not very often.
I was about to say, you're playing 16 at the moment. What do you think to Dion? Even though it's not obviously a main character, but he is quite.
I love Dion.
Love him.
He's baby boy. I love him. He's great.
I'm sorry, just a little nerd moment. I'm sorry to chime in there. When I found out he was gay, I was like, he's gay. I yelled that on streams. I didn't know. I'm like, I love Dragoons, but I'm like, oh, I love him. He's my favorite. So I was hyped for that.
I will say it was great to see like a Japanese company, especially Square Enix, like taking strides in that direction. They definitely it wasn't queer baiting because obviously they're queer, but like they should have kissed. From what I'm not at the end of the game yet, but like from the scene that I saw, they should have kissed and they didn't kiss, and like it's like I like what you did.
Sure there's fan fiction out there of them doing more than kissing.
Oh, there's probably
absolutely
sure. Google exists. Then we can get our
AO3.com/fantasy.
Epic, awesome, great, very very productive conversation. I think I'm very excited to see the potential future of where video games are gonna go with this. And like, I know everybody is like all doom and gloom with AI, and it has to be implemented correctly and not replace people, but put on top of people. But I think for stuff like representation, it has to be written well. But in terms of like player choice, having those extra options. Maybe implement something with AI. Maybe implement things where it's locked behind side quests, and that you're forcing cis hetero players to have a different viewpoint for once in their lives. That'd be nice to see.
We need trophies that's like you can only romance people of the same sex in this playthrough, and then make that a trophy.
Yeah.
Oh no, I love that. That
trophy hunters are good.
Yeah,
I'm not a member of the subreddit for trophies, but like it pops up all the time because I think I was searching for an answer about it, and some of the conversations that go on in like I think it's like PSN trophies subreddit, those people need to experience different perspectives.
You know for a fact though, if that would happen, there would be guides up on there how to get this achievement without having to see any of the content. Like there would be guides for that, just because people just cannot handle them. Anything else than their lived experience. So, but yeah, we pray for the day where those trophies are implemented.
Onyx just said in chat that Hades does have an achievement where you have to romance all of the characters, which is true.
I love that.
Good.
But again, indie developers are very much going to be the people that are the first ones to say, if a AAA isn't going to do it, then we're going to do it ourselves.
Yeah, definitely.
And at the end of the day, AAA games should care as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like, again, it's always the same. It feels like the same ending of the conversation. It's like we're going in the right direction, but it never seems to be enough.
The people in charge of the game seem to be on top of it, or seem to want to show representation. It's just quite a lot of people that play them that are, drag their knuckles behind them.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. But you know what? This has been fun, though. Thank you so much for chatting about this. We're going to move on to our final section, though, which is called, and we have a new name for this. It's called Show Me What You Got. So this is our show and tell section. If you get the reference there, I love you, by the way. Our guests have brought in one item that holds some significance to them. It could be something special, a game that they're looking forward to, a movie that they love in the past. It could be anything. And yeah, so I'm going to show you what I've got. And it happens to be, I just pulled this before the stream, so I actually didn't know what I was going to show today. I wasn't even thinking about what I was going to show. So this is my TwitchCon sign, I guess, from the meet and greet that I had at TwitchCon Amsterdam. I was invited out there when I became a Twitch ambassador, which is kind of epic. And this is the sign they gave me for my meet and greet, which like 4 people turned up to. So that was a fun time. Yeah. I don't know why I agreed to have a meet and greet. I don't have any fans in Europe, so yeah.
I would have come along if I'd known about it. I must have been busy somewhere. Must have been doing something.
No worries. Well, we live and learn. Panda, you have something to show as well?
Yes.
Which actually I've got queued up here.
You've got the picture.
Yeah.
It ties into this. This is my little pansexual disaster D&D character that I painted. She's actually based on the one that I had on Wayward Revelry. It was an 18-month long campaign over on Dimples and Dice's channel. She's the gender fluid Eladrin druid. I painted her. I have her sitting here so y'all can see exactly how tiny she is. She is 3 inches tall.
Oh my God.
She's
so
teeny tiny. But she was gender fluid, so she's an Eladrin. Eladrin change their physicality based on seasons. So she had different pronouns for every season depending on what it was and based on the kind of emotions that you get. Spring form is her normal form. She's very loud, she's very obnoxious, she's very short, and her girlfriend is very not. She is 5 foot tall. Her girlfriend is a 13 and a half. Well, now fiance is a 13 and a half foot half giant. Yeah, they're hilarious together. But she was like my little pansexual disaster that I played, because I used her to tell a very queer story. But yeah, I painted her.
I love her so much. She's so cute.
I pulled her in to kind of go with, the whole pansexual rep. It's right there. You can find it in a lot of TTRPGs as well as games. Yeah, she was 175 hours of painting, something like that.
Oh my God.
I spent something like 12 hours on her shirt and 8 hours on her eyes. So
and is that
this
like
is what I do for a living, y'all?
Like a galaxy?
Yeah, the bow in the back. And I think there's
a
a picture in the Discord if you want to pull it up. The bow is all galaxy because she's a Circle of Stars druid. So she turns into a constellation whenever she does her animal shifts and stuff.
I actually really want to see that. Let me pull that up real quick.
Yeah, she was a lot of fun to play. She was a lot of fun because TTRPGs is the other half of my content besides my mini painting and occasional gaming. I'm on 2 shows currently. One I play my 2 shows. I play my only in all of my TTRPG history canonically straight character, and then I play a pansexual disaster on my other show too. So
wonderful. I'm apparently having issues bringing that up, so I'll have to.
I can drop the link in chat and people can take a peek.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me see if I can do this real quick because I really want to show it off now. There we go. Let's do that instead.
She is not a Hero Forge model. She is a model from Twin Goddess Minis. My partner printed her for me.
Very cute. Absolutely. Look at that. Look at the details as well. I love it. Okay. Well, thank you for showing us.
Welcome. Thank you for letting me show her off.
All right. Dave, what have you got? Show me what you got.
I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I said a little earlier, but anytime I see a movie that really resonates with me, I tend to buy the art book, especially if it's animated. So,
nope.
Oh!
That's wild. That is wild.
Well, now I gotta go buy one.
I got it for Christmas. Ed got it, my partner.
That is hilarious. Well, great minds think alike. That is funny. Of all the things in the world,
that film is like one of my favorite ever.
That is great.
Fantastic
That is
film.
great.
Okay. So, wonderful, wonderful movie. Ben, show me what you got.
Oh well, I'll before I show you so I started streaming back in 2016, ages ago, and kind of like tread water for a long time, and then the channel kind of blew up a little bit during the pandemic through playing Animal Crossing, and people came together, or we just spent pretty much every day playing Animal Crossing, and two people that didn't meet in my channel, but they got closer and closer are Games Mistress, Get Lizzie With It. I know Panda, you know them very well, and so they got closer and closer. They got married, got invited to their wedding last year, had an amazing time. And one of the wedding gifts that they got me was this cross stitch of a bell from Animal Crossing. And it was just a really, really sweet thing
Cute.
that they both, because obviously
I love
they
them so
found-
much.
They came to the channel like during Animal Crossing years, back when I was family friendly for a month, which is weird. If you know Games Mistress, coming over in a family friendly moment is a bit of a unusual thing for her, but yeah, no, just having that, and so I just every time I see that, I keep that next to me on my desk, and yeah, it reminds me of the good days of Animal Crossing. Back, I mean, I've burnt myself out now on that game. I'm like 2,500 hours is a bit too much in one game that doesn't have that much new content.
But we all loved it when it was out, though. Like,
everybody was playing.
So good.
It was
I think
So
that
good.
saved everybody through the beginning of the pandemic because it
Honestly,
literally
yes.
launched like the week after shutdown.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Absolutely. That's so sweet, though, especially like that. They didn't necessarily come together, but their relationship grew, and they ended up that must be so meaningful to you.
it is.
Watching
yeah.
the
Epic.
wedding was one of the happiest moments of my entire life because
Yeah.
they streamed it for those of us that couldn't make
I was
it.
going to say, did they stream
Oh,
it?
of
That's kind of
course.
epic. You know what?
Yeah.
If you're a streamer, you kind of got to stream your wedding, though. You kind of got to. Well, you don't have to, but it's kind of a good flex. I love that. I love that. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for showing me what you got. That was a lot of fun. Right. We're gonna wrap up here, but I did want to give a special shout out to Ed Nightingale. There was an article that you linked, Ben. They have an article all about character creation, which was incredibly, really, really cool to read. I'm going to pop that in the chat for those of you who haven't. So do check that out. Some of that was definitely implemented as I was talking today. So thank you, Ed, for your hard work. Appreciate you. Definitely worth checking that out. And other than that, a massive thank you to you all for coming on today. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I hope I didn't grill you too much on those questions too, because I felt like I was a little bit. So, all right. So again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. I'm going to let everybody now say who exactly they are and where you can find their content. So, Panda, take it away. Who are you? Where can people find your stuff? And what
Hi,
you got coming up?
Awkwardish Panda everywhere on the internet. If you are looking to meet me in person, I have 4 conventions this year. I will be in the Chicago suburbs in March at Adepticon. I will be at Nova in DC in Labor Day weekend. I will be at Dragonfall in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, which is where D&D was founded, in October, and then I will be at PAX Unplugged in December. I will have minis on display at all of those locations in all of the competitions. Other than that, I stream 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm usually painting. If I'm not painting, I'm playing Skull and Bones. And then Monday nights, you can catch me over on the GR crew, which is the_GR_crew for my Blue Rose campaign, which is Tears of the Rose. And then every other week on youtube.com/Fiends of Fairwick is the show that I manage. It is a Monster of the Week campaign where we are the NC-17 Scooby-Doo gang set in 1983, and we are a mess.
I love that.
And
Sounds
we
like
have that
amazing.
cast is half queer or 2/3 queer, half people of color. We closed caption everything for accessibility. We are literally queer disasters all over that show, and it's wonderful. It is like actual magic that happened when that cast came together. It's just wild how well we gel, and it's hilarious.
Wonderful
That's me. I'm a
stuff.
very busy panda.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like so.
I also
busy
take
in my
commissions
life.
if you need your minis painted.
Hell yes. And of course, Dave, what do you got coming up and where can people find you?
All right. Well, you all can find me at twitch.tv/day-to-day. Day-to-day everywhere. Day-to-day TV for social media. But I do a variety of games, mostly games we can either play together or experience the story together. Right now, we started Infinite Wealth and Pokemon Unite Grand Blue. anything multiplayer, I'm on it. So catch me around. I'm always live.
Hell yes. And of course, Ben, what have
Hey.
you got coming up? Where can people find you?
Quite a bit of stuff. I'm Biggest Bennis on Twitch and YouTube. Biggest Bennis1 on Twitter. And yeah, right now I'm doing Let's Plays. At the moment, I've got Let's Play of Rebirth, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming out on release day. So there'll be a few episodes of that out. I also do a weekly podcast with my partner Ed called Swapping Joysticks. If you go to swappingjoysticks.com, you get all the links on there. We've done interviews. Well, we do a weekly one, but we also interview quite a lot of people, including voice actors such as like Ben Starr. We've spoken to the voice actors of Shadowheart and Lae'zel from Baldur's Gate 3. And also some 14 voice actors as well, Peter Bramhill and Colin Ryan, who play in the right order. No, not Alphino, that's wrong first. Which one? Thancred and Alphino. And we also are recording a very special one next week that I can't talk about yet, but I'll just say it's related to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and that will be out on release day as well.
Wonderful. Wonderful stuff. Looking forward to
Tease.
that. Epic stuff. Okay, we're going to be back in 2 weeks' time for our Final Fantasy Celebration special. What? Yeah, we're doing a whole podcast about Final Fantasy. That'll just after Rebirth's release, actually. And in the meantime, you can follow the Gaming Mag channel here on Twitch or subscribe onto our YouTube so you don't miss the next show or anything else that we pop up on there. And of course, until next time, hopefully you just keep reading and watching Gaming Magazine. So, see you then. Goodbye for now, all. Bye.